Okay.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new chapter, whatever you want to call it, of this series of videos I'm doing. It's been great to meet all these people and to get to know their cultures and their countries. Today I'm happy to have with me Aine, and I will let she do a small introduction of herself to you guys so that you get to know her a bit. Hi Aine.
Hi. Okay, so I guess I'll introduce myself. Hi everyone. This is my first time live. My name is Aine Adachi. I'm from Tokyo, Japan. I was raised in Tokyo as well as in the United States, specifically in Maryland. I'm currently a fourth year law student at the University of Tokyo, but I'm here on exchange at the University of at yeah at the LMU Munich.
Yeah.
I forgot the name for a second. Yeah, that's about it, I think,
And
for now.
what do you like to do in your spare time? Any interest you have that you might want to share?
Let's see. Well, an interest that a hobby that I took up during quarantine has been running. So I used to hate to run. I hated running, but I was on the soccer team when I was in high school, believe it or
Yeah.
not. But I really disliked running because it was always something that my coach would force us to do. But um, being in quarantine, I didn't have a lot to do, and I wanted to exercise, so I started running outside my dad's house in Frankfurt. And in Frankfurt, there's a nice river, and then there's a nice view of the skyscrapers, as well as some more European-looking buildings, like churches. And so yeah, it was really nice. I would run every day, and I think that's one of my new hobbies right now. So yeah, I would say jogging, running.
And it's funny that I'm not too much of a runner as well, even though I don't mind it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've always preferred to run for a reason, or whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I also love to play. We here in Europe call it football. I know in the US,
Right.
and I think in
Not
Japan as well call it soccer. But
yeah.
yeah, I understand what you
Mm-hmm.
mean. But I think I saw you have an interest about basketball as well.
Um, I actually don't watch a lot of basketball, but
Because
I do like certain players,
because
like the late
I
Kobe.
think I saw you shared something about Kobe Bryant, so that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
I was asking.
yeah. I really admired him. I mean, I still admire him, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, he's gone. But but it's not so much I like the sport. I like some certain icons, I guess.
But why did you admire him so much? It was something about his personality, the way he played.
Like I didn't know. I mean, I guess he. I mean, like when I watch him play, he's so he plays so effortlessly, but he plays with a lot of power, and I thought that was pretty cool. But also, he grew up in Italy, I believe,
Hmm. I don't know. I
and
don't know.
he grew up in Italy, and he was a Black American kid in Italy at that time growing up, and then he moved to the States, and so he's had a pretty unique childhood, and he's talked about that a lot and how that formed his identity. Um, and he can speak Italian too because he grew up there, and I think that experience, like I can relate to it somehow a little bit because I also grew up abroad. And but it's really cool to see him like a sports player being so eloquent and very intelligent. I mean, I'm not saying sports players aren't eloquent or aren't
Yeah.
intelligent, but he seemed to be very interested in those like perhaps more difficult topics about identity and politics, and he would talk about those things. So I admired him for that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. Maybe before we start, I will maybe improvise a bit, do a different thing from what I've done in the last videos. I prepared
Okay.
here a set of questions, but fast
Oh,
questions like with two possibilities, and you just say the one which you identify the most, and if you want to give a small explanation why. If you don't, you just answer.
okay.
So it will be quick, I believe. So, are you more
Mm-hmm.
of a dreamer or down to earth?
Dreamer.
Nice. Improvise or plan?
Plan. I am really bad at doing things spontaneously, I think. I always need to research something beforehand. Yeah.
Okay. To inspire or to be inspired?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't think I am inspiring enough yet, so I would say to be inspired.
Okay. Smile or laugh?
Oh, laugh, definitely.
City or countryside?
City. I've always grown up in a city.
Okay. Beach or nature?
Beach or nature?
Even though
Uh,
beach is kind of like nature, but when I say nature, it's like
like forest.
exactly different kind of environment. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I guess nature. Yeah, I would
Okay.
say, trees, like mountains.
Okay. Spring or autumn?
Spring.
Nice.
Because I think it's more culturally important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have those trees with the beautiful flowers, right? And it's during
Yeah,
spring in
yeah,
Japan.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a tourist really. It's heavily tourist you have many tourism in that time of the year, right?
Yeah, it's become sort of famous for that, I
Yeah.
guess.
Going out for lunch or dinner?
Oh, that's hard. See, dinner is more expensive, but lunch is shorter, so I would say going out for dinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Movies or series?
Oh, that's also uh oh wow, I don't know. Let's go with series then.
Okay.
Series. Yeah.
And the final one, but not the least,
Yeah.
a difficult truth or a pleasing lie?
Oh, difficult truth.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
They're more interesting.
Nice. So moving on, maybe I would like to talk a little bit about your childhood and how much the country, specifically Japan, and you can talk a little bit about the US if you want as well, have shaped you and the way
Okay.
you have lived those years. What was the
hmm
most difficult thing for little Aine to growing up?
Oh, okay. What was the most difficult thing? I think it would be adjusting to new environments because like in my childhood, I moved every 2 or 3 years. So I would move to a new neighborhood and therefore a new school every 2 or 3 years. And oftentimes it would be I would move between the US and Japan. So it would be like 3 years in Japan and then 3 years in America. And I think that was the hardest thing growing up, like just always having to make new friends and always having to like relearn a culture in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And find my own place within that community and within that culture. And by the time I got accustomed to it, it would be time to go to a new place. So I think that was most difficult. But I don't think I really understood the severity of that until until I was about 8 or 9. Because when you're like 7 or 6, you don't really
Yeah.
you're not affected by it, or when you're 3 or 4, like I don't remember, right? But once I started getting older, it was pretty difficult, but I
Start to miss
think
your
i
friends.
i
Yeah.
managed. Yeah,
But
that sort
why?
of thing.
Why?
And kids get meaner.
Yeah, I understand. You start to be the person who came from outside, so I understand that.
hmm
So you had to deal
yeah
with that. But why did you travel so much during that period?
yeah so basically that was because of my father's job. He works at the Central Bank of Japan, but I mean, his career was basically, I mean, he works for the Central Bank of Japan, but he would work at all these other international institutions. Like, for example, the reason why we lived in America, in Maryland, was because he worked at the IMF, which is in DC. And the reason why he's now in Frankfurt is because he works at the ECB. So he's always had this, like, I guess, international career of working at different institutions throughout around the world. And he would take us with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a big reason as well. He wanted the family to be together, but also my parents really wanted me to learn English and to grow up in this in a abroad, to
Mm-hmm.
have this experience. So yeah, that's why I was always moving back and forth.
So the
Yeah.
whole family would follow your father to the places he was working, basically.
Yeah, basically up until I started middle school. Well, so see, I came back to Japan when I was about 12.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I returned to Japan when I was about 12. And that's the year I like finished elementary school and I got into middle school and I started middle school. And then in high school, there was another opportunity for my dad to like move to Switzerland, I think. But at that time, I didn't want to move. And so he also didn't move, but he would go like on business trips every week. So it was basically like, you know, I never got to see him. But until that age, so until about like the age of 12, he would always take his family, like us with him and move.
Do you have any siblings?
No, I'm an only child. I think that's, yeah, also a factor. Yeah. Okay. I don't have any siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked about the worst part, or the most difficult one at least, and what was the best thing to grow up in during those times?
Oh, the best thing?
Yeah, partially,
I mean,
Sorry, continue.
No, go ahead. You can, yeah.
No, I was going to say that partially you said that you gain a capacity of or a skill to adapt to meet new people, so that's a plus, I believe. But I don't know what you were going to say. Sorry, I interrupted you without wanting to.
No problem. Because I mean, honestly, I was going to say the worst part was also probably the best part. You know, because like.
That's funny.
I don't know if it's such an interesting answer, but you know, like I got to have these experiences of living abroad and knowing a different culture and knowing a different way of life from a very young age. And so those things are a part of me, you know, and even though I'm Japanese, I identify as Japanese, but there's always a part of me that thinks of America as also home in a way. And I guess like growing up in different countries, like it allows you to be more open-minded perhaps, and also language, you know, it's always cool to have command of another language other than your native tongue. I mean, because for me it's really difficult to say which one my native tongue is, because I really learned them both simultaneously. Yeah, and I think it's also made me become like resilient, I guess. So, and also, I mean, from learning, like growing up in these different environments, like I wasn't always accepted, you know? So, and I learned from a young age that you can't make everyone like you, you know, you got to be yourself, and some people will be your best friends and some people won't really like you, but it's okay as long as you're not being, you know, a jerk to them. So it's helped me be confident in who I am and be okay with people not always, you know, being okay with confronting people, being okay with expressing myself the way I want to. I don't think I'm afraid of negative opinions about myself because I've already overcome those. Yeah. So.
I think that's wonderful.
It sounds much more inspiring.
No, it's wonderful. The two things you said. The first one that the worst thing that occurred to you was also the best. Of course, if we had to choose our future, we would avoid the bad things, of course. But since we've lived them already, when we look back, we notice that those bad things also allowed us to get to the position we are today. And so we don't need to look with a sad perspective to it. We can find the positive side, and you did it perfectly, so I loved it. And also,
thank you.
What you said, I think you are 22, right? Or almost 22? Sorry, 21.
Yeah, I turned 22 in 2 days. In 3 days.
And even maybe you already know this for some years now, that not everyone will like you, and even if you are good to people, you don't have to worry too much about the other's opinion. I find it wonderful that someone your age, or even some years ago, already has that kind of depth of perspective about things, because many people struggle with it, and it's wonderful that you have that skill already.
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot. Thank you.
Were you well behaved, or a little bit more rebellious as a child? And what kind of punishments did you used to receive?
Wait a second. There's this like huge. I think I told you about it. There's this huge fly in my room. Was I okay? I would say I was very well behaved. Especially, you know, but it's funny, especially in the United States, like in America, I think there's always a stereotype about the Asian kid who
Yeah.
does well in school and who's really well behaved. Like I was that Asian kid. I mean, I
Yeah.
was more than Asian kid. I wasn't completely nerdy, I hope, but I enjoyed doing well in school, I think. Like it was a way for me to be accepted by the school because like the acceptance first came from my teachers and then once, because students have us like at least at that age, if you do well in school and if the teachers know you do well in school, the other students also respect you, like they
Mm-hmm.
also respect you, so I think maybe that was my motivation because like my parents never really forced me to study, at least I don't remember that. So I think it was more of my choice to behave in school and to study hard, at least in the context of a 10-year-old. And so yeah, I would say I was well behaved, but I got more rebellious in my preteen years, like
Yeah.
10, 11, 12, 13. And I think I became more rebellious since coming back to Japan. I don't know whether like being in Japan helped me be more rebellious, maybe because I felt like I was back in my country, so I didn't have to be so good all the time.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure, but yeah, I became more rebellious. But I think also that another reason why I did was because like when I went back to Japan for the last time, like so that was when I was 12, right? I went to a local elementary school and I got really bullied there. Like the bullying was very severe and the teachers didn't help me at all. So
Yeah.
like that just made me kind of lose faith in school at that time. So I don't know. Like I stopped feeling like I always had to listen to the teacher. Like I could make my own decisions. So I became a little bit more arrogant. But yeah, I would say that
Yeah.
that's my
But
that's me.
why were you targeted by these kids? Was something specific about you having been outside or something like that?
Yeah, it was me having been being like brought up abroad, well, more specifically in America. It was me being able to speak English, and it was me kind of being therefore different from the other kids. Like, I mean, dude, we're talking about Japan today. I'm proud of my country. I love Japan, but I feel like, there is a lot of pressure in Japanese society to be similar, to not
Mm-hmm.
really
Stand
stand out
out.
in a negative
Yeah.
way. Yeah, exactly.
The
Like,
same way.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
stereotype, but it's true. And I think I felt that the most when I was in that school, like when I was at that school. And that's why I think they targeted me. But as I was saying, like even at that time, I I don't know, like looking back, I don't know how I had this confidence, but I was really confident in myself. Like I didn't change. Like I wouldn't change myself and I couldn't change myself. I didn't know how to like fit the mold or try to make myself stand out less. I didn't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why I became a target, I guess. So those years were really tough, but they passed.
Yeah,
So,
and like you said before, you learned from it and you grew, so
yeah,
that's good.
exactly. I think yeah, yeah. I was going to say I think it's important to have an experience of getting bullied, but I don't want to say that because sometimes bullying can be very very extreme and it can have very like negative consequences that are irreversible. But I think it helped me be a stronger and more empathetic person.
I know one thing I believe is that we shouldn't be influenced by the ignorance of others. And
Mm-hmm.
I think bully is just the people being ignorant and do
Yeah.
those things.
Mm-hmm.
But if being bullied is what it takes to learn that, I don't say you should be bullied, but that's a good thing. You learn
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But people can be really stressed out doing so. Bullying is a really bad thing. But
Mm-hmm.
it's an opportunity to learn that you shouldn't be affected by the ignorance of others. But of course, when it puts physical aggression in it, and if the psychological aggression is also really bad,
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. I've never been bullied, thankfully, but I can imagine it should be awful. But it's nice
Yeah.
that you found the positive side of it and finally it's gone. It's like we tend to, when we are living things in life, we tend to believe like it will always be like this. And
Hmm.
it's nice to have the bigger picture that no, this is just a period of my life. Things will be different in the future, like they are now different than they were in the past. And
Hmm.
yeah, fortunately it ended, and no one deserves to be
Yeah.
bullied.
I mean, I think I was really like, so I mean, the bullying, it was in both like psychological way, so like name calling or, like excluding me and blah blah blah, like all that. But it was also, physical, which is
Yeah.
surprising. But it was also physical. But I think what helped me get through that, in one way, was because I knew that I would be graduating soon. And that I knew that I only had like 1 year to go at this school, because I would have to graduate anyway. I would have to go to a different school for middle
Yeah.
school. So like there was that, always that end in sight. And I think it's much harder when it's happening maybe in the middle of, high school or middle school, or like right at the beginning, and you still have 3 or 4 more years at the same school, and then it becomes, yeah,
Yeah.
even. Mm.
Okay. What were the biggest values your parents taught you?
Oh, these questions are deep. Okay. Biggest values. Okay. Um, I can't concentrate with this bug. Um, okay, okay. Hmm. Okay, I think I'm gonna start with something, I guess, my mother mostly taught me. But I guess with my mother, like she's always been very encouraging of me. Like she's always believed in me to an extent that I feel unworthy of that enthusiasm or that confidence in me. Like even when I thought I couldn't do something, like even today, like I'm at the age where I'm starting to think about what I'm going to do after college, right? Because I graduate soon. That's a very scary thing. um, but she always believes in me, and she always thinks that I can succeed in whatever I do. And she is always so positive. And I think that's one of the, I don't know if you can call it a value, but like just believing in yourself and believing in your strengths and not so much weaknesses. That's something that she taught me. Like, I mean, this unconditional love and this unconditional like cheerleading in a way. That's always been my mother. So yeah, that's what she taught me. And I think she always tells me like that, obviously, like the person I am, I didn't get here only through hard work. That's not it. There were a lot of fortunate things in my circumstances, like the country that I grew up in, or my parents' jobs, like, or, there are a lot of privileges that I have that are out of my control, and that I need to be thankful for. So she always reminds me to remember those things, but at the same time, also remember that I have worked hard for what I have, So she
Mm-hmm.
makes sure to like, check she tells me, check your privilege, but also remember that you worked hard and you do deserve to be where you are now. So I think that's what my mom has taught me. That's like the first thing out of the many things she's taught me.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
yeah, and with my dad, see, my dad, um, oh, it's just hard. Like, I mean, I think with my dad, um, I obviously also admire him a lot, but we have a lot of difference in opinion. Like we have a lot of differences in opinion. Especially, I've noticed that, especially now as a 21-year-old, when we talk about politics or we talk
Yeah.
about society, we talk about marriage. You know, but he he always treats me like a, okay, but when we talk about things, like when we talk about very difficult topics, he treats me like an equal, and he always listens to what I have to say, even though he thinks usually the complete opposite of what I think. And so he has taught me respect, like to respect other people's opinions even if they're different from your own. but also to know that emotion won't get you very far, that you need to be, um, you have to pick your battles. You have to be smart about where you get angry, where you get worked up. You have to be smart about where you make compromises, but other times you need to really push forward and really fight for what you believe in. But other times you need to pick your battles because like the world's not always gonna be kind to you. The world's not always gonna be fair to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with my dad, like he's taught me to believe in my opinion, like to know that I should be respected by others, but that also the world won't always respect me, and that in order to succeed and to get to where I want to go in the long run, I'm going to have to be prudent and I'm going to have to be smart about how I go about it. I can't just like run and expect people to follow me or to agree with me. That is not going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
He's taught me that life won't be easy. I think that's it. Like my mom taught me that I can do anything. My dad taught me that sometimes you can't, but that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have that balance because both things are kind of true,
Mm-hmm.
Identified very much with the things you said now. Starting with the self confidence and the courage to
Yeah.
do things and to be ambitious
Mm-hmm.
and to look for what you want and to believe that you can do those things. I was lucky
Mm-hmm.
enough to have parents that would incentivize, it sounds like this, but yeah, it would push me to believe in myself and to say that, like you said, they believe in me so much that I do as
Right.
well. I
Mm-hmm.
really believe in
Mm-hmm.
myself, but maybe that's just a
Mm-hmm.
result of the education they gave me and what they
Yeah.
passed to me. So I really
Mm-hmm.
identified with what you said, and I feel that's super important for anyone
Really.
else. I'm sad that not everyone has that feels that self value of themselves, and I think that limits them a
Mm-hmm.
lot throughout life. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful that you have that lucky because not everyone is like you said,
Mm-hmm.
and I identified as well very much when you said that we are really privileged. We work for what we
Mm-hmm.
have. So the other day I was just realizing that life is just a matter of making the right choices a lot of times.
Yeah.
You make
Mm-hmm.
wrong choices, that's okay, you learn from it. But to
Mm-hmm.
get well in life is to make right choices a lot of times. If you start to make
Mm-hmm.
many wrong choices, you get in a path you don't want. But yeah, it's really
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I agree.
what you said about
Yeah.
your father respecting others, that's super important. And we are living turbulent days worldwide, especially in the United States. And I don't feel that people
Mm-hmm.
sometimes have that ability to respect the other side and to listen to what they have to say and to share
Mm-hmm.
compassion in the discussion. And that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing
Mm-hmm.
that things may be
Mm-hmm.
difficult, but people may not
Mm-hmm.
respect you. Some people, there are always good and bad people everywhere, and to choose your
Mm-hmm.
battles. I've seen the other day in the television a Chinese saying that was like, the one who chooses to go to battle must first evaluate the cost. And I found it
Oh,
wonderful, it really resonates.
yeah.
So, and it
Mm-hmm.
resonates with what you said as well, so it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good quote. It's very, yeah. There's a lot to learn from that, I think. Are you also an only child or?
No, no, I have a sister, luckily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's
Cool.
nice as well. You learn a lot from engaging with your siblings as well. Even though I don't think you should be sad because you don't have. It's just different. It's just different. I would deal.
Yeah.
I'm as a person. I like to look at the positive things, positive side of the things, because that makes me more happy
Mm-hmm.
than just looking at the negative
Yeah, I
things.
can tell you're very. I like the way you think. Like you're very positive, but you're also I think you're a realist too. But you remain positive. Yeah.
So I've learned a lot from engaging with my sister. Not everything was easy
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years, of course, but that's good. I remember one thing
Mm-hmm.
that I think I've learned very much was about the other's opinion, and when others don't accept what you are saying, I'm so determined and so passionate about the things I believe that when I get into a discussion, that can be hard because
Mm-hmm.
I really feel that and I really believe
Oh
in that,
yeah.
and people say, no, that's not right, and I try to explain why that is right, and they still refuse it, and it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister, throughout her teenage
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
will get to a point that she would see that I was right, but she couldn't admit it because she wanted to be right, and she don't wanted to be weak in the way that I was the one right. So I would notice she understood that I was right, but she would still deny it, and it was really difficult for me at the time. But it was great because I had to learn, like I said, if the other person is being ignorant, I don't want to call ignorant to my sister, it's just in the situation. We are all ignorant in some way. We are not experts in everything, and we are not perfect, and we all have defects. So if someone is being ignorant with you, or you think you are not right, that's okay. You have to learn to accept it. It's the person's choice to do that. Yeah. And you have to accept it. So it was a great opportunity to learn.
Yeah, and you could just do it, at home with your sister. So yeah, it's a really important. I think it's a thing to learn, and I feel like sometimes the hardest people to argue with are the people closest to you. So like family, like they're so close to you, and yet like sometimes like just arguing with them can be the most difficult thing in the world, like more difficult than arguing with a classmate or with a friend.
Yeah, I understand what you say. Yeah, it can be different, yeah. But like I said, I've learned a lot, and that's the good thing. And I go along with her really well, and it's great. And I think in the future will be even better.
I think so too, yeah. Like, you guys have so many more lives, not together, but like to learn about each other and from each other. Yeah.
Okay. What is the thing you love the most about the Japanese culture and values?
Ooh. Wow, coming hard with the deep questions. Okay, what do I love most about Wait. So the question was, what do I love most about Japanese values, right?
Culture, yeah.
And culture. Oh, that's a difficult one. I think the reason is maybe not everyone's like this, but I think I tend to be a little bit critical of my own culture in terms of our values, because for me, what I talked about earlier about people not being very accepting of people who are different, or this. There's a lot of sometimes, even in Tokyo, which there's peer pressure, to do something a certain way. And if everyone's looking right or moving right, and if you move left, then people are gonna stare at you, or people are gonna give you a hard time for that sometimes. And I imagine it can be even more severe in a smaller town. So, and because I've had like personal experience with that is what I think of when I hear of Japanese values. But I think I'm being a little bit unfair to the culture of my country, because we do really have, all cultures are great, but I think we do really have a very unique and rich culture, and sometimes I focus too much on the negative aspects. And I think so one of the things that I like the most is how respectful we are, I think. And I think it's a little bit different from politeness as well, because yes, Japanese people are polite, but I think sometimes when you just say that people are polite, it implies that. Yeah, it's a bit superficial, but I feel that part of our culture is to really be respectful of the other person, be respectful of where they're from, what kind of person they are, how different they are from us. And sometimes that respect leads to this distance between ourselves, but we never really force ourselves upon them. You know what I mean? Like, we're not very, we don't force them to kind of, it's actually difficult to say. But I don't think we're very pushy. Like, I think we allow them to have their space, and we are respectful of what they want, maybe. And I think that's a good thing. And also, we're not, we value what's not said. So I think more often in Western culture, it's really important to voice your opinion and to be not loud, but be assertive and really go for it. But in Japan, what's viewed as you know not just respectful, but as honorable is to understand the other person without making them say what they need or what they're feeling. And so this like nonverbal communication is very important. And so a lot of times you'll see that in social settings. And I think that's one of the things that keeps Japanese culture like moving in Japanese society. It's really important in our culture. And it's nice because you don't always have to be loud. You don't always have to explain yourself. People can just understand you and accept you. And they'll try to accommodate you without them also making a big deal out of it. So I like that we can try to resolve conflict without making such a big deal out of it. Sometimes we can be very quiet. We can do it in a very discreet way. And I think that's quite, I don't know, it's a nice change from perhaps the more vocal, more sometimes aggressive ways of expressing yourself in other cultures.
I find it interesting, especially what you said about words, because it's kind of true that in the Western culture, words are important and the way you communicate. But they can be misleading as well. Especially, it is not the same, but more important than your words are your actions. And if your actions are not according to what you say, you might be misleading someone. You might not be telling the truth. And sometimes people can be saying they like you very much or they respect you, and in reality they don't. And if you pay attention to their actions, we tend to forget to be attentive to those things. But if you pay attention to that, you can understand that. And I find it really interesting and wonderful that you guys are attentive to those details. And sometimes you don't need to express things, which I find a good thing, but it's okay, it's cultural. You don't need to express things to understand that. So you are really attentive, and I find it wonderful. It's interesting, and we should incorporate a bit of that. The words are nice, but actions and to be attentive and to care about the others, that's super important as well. So I think in the middle might be the perfection.
I think so too. Like the attention to detail that you mentioned, that I didn't say that explicitly, but like that's exactly what I also was trying to say. Like, I mean, and you see that in like the things that we create, like Japanese products are so attentive to detail. Like, I don't know, like anything, like video games or like I don't know, like artisan handcrafts or just really anything, like stationery. Everything is so detailed, and there's so much like effort and put into like the smallest detail, and I really like that. So yeah, if you come to Japan and you check out like the shops or how we wrap things, right now I think there's maybe a problem with that because it's not environmentally friendly. But there's this culture of like wrapping everything in very nice ways and very quite ornate ways as well. But there's like a lot of attention to detail in Japanese society, and if you look at those details, it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, and another thing I like that you said is that so regarding people being respectful to others, and so from what I've read, I understood that people in Japan are really concerned about the vision other people have about them. They don't, better say, they don't like to disappoint others, and they sometimes feel this peer pressure that you said from society, and they just they accept it, and sometimes live their whole lives not subjected, that's the better word, to these expectations, and I can imagine it's really hard, and I find it wonderful, the perseverance of these people to get through these expectations and to deliver the results or the actions other people are expecting of them. That is really hard. Many people, maybe outside of Japan, wouldn't support or have the endurance to take all the pressure that, from what I've read, you guys tend to have. So I think you can look at that as a wonderful thing, that perseverance of the people.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very that's very sweet, and that's very also like attentive of you. I think to notice that from your readings. Like I for this, I mean, there's a word in Japanese. It's gamang, gamang, and it means to. It means like I guess the English translation would be perseverance and endurance in a way, but it literally means to like kind of suppress a part of yourself, like suppress your needs in a way to like just so let's say you're going through some hardship, you're going through this really stressful time in your life, you need to gamang, you need to just accept the hardship, accept the pain, and just pull through, you know, and expecting that things will be better. But for now, this is, and it's not in a religious context, like with God, you know, God giving you a challenge in life. No, it's not like that, but it's more about like your soul and how you maintain your soul and during these times of hardship. And I think that's like a huge part of our like mentality in a way in our culture. And you see that always happening and always being alluded to in times of distress, like when we have a lot of like natural disasters, we have a lot of earthquakes, but people get, you know, through those, through gamang, like in a way, you know, to just pull through in those hard moments.
And that human strength is terrific.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's actually pretty incredible. Like, yeah, even as Japanese myself, I wonder, it's crazy. Like, and people follow the rules, you know, even in times like even when the Tohoku earthquake hit back in 2011, there was close to no looting. Like no one looted. I mean, maybe not no one, but there were very few cases of burglaries, of looting, and people would just wait in line to get their food, to get their water, and you know,
There's a collective compromise, like.
Yeah, for the greater, you know, good of society, and it works both ways. It can be negative, but it can also be very positive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I agree. And I can understand why you might be more able to point out the defects of the Japanese culture, because you grew up with two really different cultures, like the American one and the Japanese one. From what I've read, the more Asian-like tradition and education are much more community guided. The way of thinking, people subject their own likes and dreams and ambitions to the well-being of the community. And in the Western world or culture, there's much more of an individuality side and personality, that you might pursue your ambitions, your dreams, what you love, and it's completely different. So it's interesting for you to hear both perspectives, and so it might. I think it's normal that you find it easier to point out the bad things in each of them. So I think that's why. But I can tell you one thing. That might be your case. I feel it's like your case with your country. Like we Portuguese people tend to say, to easily criticize our country or things in our country. You can between ourselves, but when we talk to others or in some situations, we show the pride and the love we have for our country. So we can as well say bad things about it, but in the end we are really proud, and we really love our country and our language and our culture. So I think I can find that in you. Like you can notice the bad things, but you still identify yourself as Japanese. You love your country. It's just you were born and raised with two different perspectives of things. So it's normal, and that's why it's so important to travel, to get a different perspective of things.
Yeah, I agree. If you have the chance, traveling is very. It really changes your perspective, and it sticks with you. I think those changes.
One funny question. No, before going there. Before going there, I will do another maybe deep question, but it's interesting. What is your relationship with failure? And your relationship
Oh,
with failure, and I can also ask what is the relationship of Japanese people with failure. Let's start with you.
ooh. What is my relationship with failure?
Yeah.
Oh, that's deep, man. Oh gosh. Do you mean like how I cope with failure, how I view failure, what failure is to me, or all of those things, maybe?
Just answer the question wherever. No, no,
Okay.
I'm really. Just answer the question, being spontaneous. Yeah, but it can
Okay.
be all of it. You just say what you're feeling right now.
Okay. Well, see, what I'm feeling right now is that I don't believe that I don't want to sound very arrogant or just like a jerk, but to me, I don't feel like I've ever failed spectacularly in my life, not yet. And it's funny because I was in high school when I was in high school. One of my friends, I mean, she wasn't, like a best friend, but I knew her. She was in my class. She told me one day, she told me, Aine, you seem like the person who, is gonna do extremely well in life, but at one point you are just gonna fail immense. Like you're just gonna have this one huge failure in life, but other than that, you're gonna be smooth sailing. Like, and she told me that, and I found that really interesting because like I've always felt that way too. I've always felt that things have been going too well for me. I mean, I don't know. Does that sound very obnoxious? Because yeah, like when I moved back to Japan, I experienced a lot of bullying. I think more than most people, definitely. But I was able to get through that, and I went to the middle school of my choice, and I was very, very happy there. And I had a very fun middle school, high school experience. And now I got into the University of Tokyo, which is considered to be a good school, and it was my top choice. So I'm afraid of failure because I don't think I've experienced it so spectacularly before. But I feel like it will be something that will come later in life in some way or another. And I think that maybe it will come in the form of me realizing that I won't, that I'm not going to get my way however I try. Because I think, growing up as an only child, I, as I said, I got a lot of opportunities, and you know, my parents have always found ways to help me do what I wanted to do. Like a good example is, the COVID pandemic now in Germany. A lot of my friends, I mean, all of my friends who were studying abroad had to return to Japan because of the COVID pandemic, because our university recalled its students. The only reason why I was able to stay in Germany now is because my dad works in Germany. And so I persuaded my school to let me stay because I could stay at my father's house until things settled down. And they said yes to that. So like so many times in my life, I've been lucky enough to be the exception sometimes, like in cases that for other people, they might have not gotten such an exception and they might have had to accept their fate. So I just feel like once I really become independent from my parents, so once I finish college, and I intend to, start working and hopefully move out of my parents' place, I think that's when I'll realize that um, I can't rely on my parents anymore. It's not like I ask them to, let me get my way. But I feel like they do it for me, and I don't, I don't tell them no, don't help me. Like I accept their help, and I guess maybe that's what parents are there to do. But uh, I feel like yeah, maybe when I get, when I become independent, I really should, even in that way, stop relying on them so much. But So that is my relationship with failure. But I guess I'm also a positive person. So some of the failures that I've experienced in my life already that I don't really view as failures might be to other people. But I guess I usually just see the positive side of things, or I kind of tell myself that I'm that like well, I don't know what I tell myself, but I usually allow myself to get really disappointed for a day or two, but then I forget about it because I need to move on, and maybe because the failures weren't so large in the first place. So yeah, that is if that is a sufficient answer. I don't know, but that would be my answer to the first part of your question. Second part of my question for about what was it? How Japanese people view failure.
Yeah, before I move to that, sorry. I was kind of sad while you were answering.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was kind of sad while you were answering because people sometimes
Well,
tend to play with us, and sometimes do they are being good. They are not thinking about doing bad things to us, but sometimes they can put really bad things into our minds, and I just felt like you're leaving kind of a burden, like expecting for something really bad to happen since your friend said that to you, and that sounds awful.
maybe.
Like
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't.
she wasn't a friend.
Yeah, I think she was just playing. I don't think she was doing that on purpose. Maybe, no, I'm sure.
Oh,
But the way it came into your mind, I don't think it's healthy. Like you are almost expecting for something
yeah,
really bad to happen. And
right.
you're afraid of that big failure to come to your life, and I don't feel like that's a good thing. At least for the way I view life and myself. And
Yeah.
I could identify totally with what you said about uh,
Mhm.
not having ever had a big failure in life, or to really mess up things to a point that I would just be too much embarrassed or feel like, oh,
Mhm.
I've messed up too much. I've never felt that, luckily, and with the choices I've made.
Mhm.
Like we just came here through the choices we've made. So we are, like you said, we have to be conscious of our privilege, and like
Mhm.
you, I had wonderful parents to guide me. They were always there to support me. They still are. So
Mhm.
I've not the closer the closest thing I was to be living by myself was when I was in the Netherlands, and still they were the ones
Right.
paying everything for me because I don't work yet, and they always
Mhm.
made sure that I had every opportunity and everything I needed to flourish, to achieve my
Mhm.
potential and the things I'm looking for. So I
Mhm.
totally identified with what you said like that. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but I think
Sorry.
that's no problem. But I think to living expecting a big failure in
Yeah.
your life, it's just don't worry about it. It might never come. It's like I don't know, to be afraid that something really bad, not a failure of yours, but something you cannot control, will happen to you, and you live your
Mhm.
whole life being afraid of that happens, but it might never happen. So
Mhm.
just trust you, like,
Yeah.
and if one day you mess
Yeah.
up and fail, because all of we failed, even in a small proportion, right? But even if one day
Mhm.
that is a bigger mistake, okay,
Mhm.
we'll manage through it and we'll find a way out of it. Like you said, you Japanese people, persistence. No, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. Just have
Yeah.
hope that
Yeah, no,
things.
I mean,
If something bad happens, okay, let's accept it and make work that so that things will change in a better way and be hopeful of a better day. But don't be
mhm.
expecting that really bad thing to happen in your life. Like I think,
Yeah, I
like
think I needed that pep talk.
uh,
Like, I think,
I think we need to be
yeah.
positive about our future. I have a
Mhm.
wonderful thing is that I completely believe. I have no reason. The reason I have is that I've been able to make the right choices so far. So I believe I will make it in the future. But I have. I'm so sure inside of me that my future will be amazing, and
Mhm.
I find I shouldn't. I have no really solid reason to believe that because, like you said, I can mess up in the middle of it. But I'm so
Mhm.
sure of it, and I found that that's so good for me because
Mhm.
to believe that I will arrive at that wonderful future I'm looking for. That's a really powerful thing. And that's what keeps me in the right direction. Like, I
Mhm.
know that no matter how things are now, I have the
Yeah.
potential and the ability to get me to that future I'm looking for. And I think that's. But if one day something really bad happens, what I will
Mhm.
try to do, of course,
Mhm.
the emotions can make it difficult, but what I will try to
Yeah.
do, and what I know I have to do, because when we are not living it, we kind of think more logically through things.
Mhm.
What I know I will have to do if that moment arises is okay,
Mhm.
things are like this, let's see what I can do best now to make things better. But
Mhm. Yeah.
you understand?
Yeah.
But nothing in life is definite. Like I said before,
True.
when we are living
That's
something,
true.
we tend to believe that things will always be like that. But that's not true.
Mhm.
Things will change. In 10 years from now,
Mhm.
things will be completely different.
Mhm. Yeah. Now I want to interview you to like ask about how you came to that perspective on life, but no, I think you're right. I mean, I know in my heart that I think you're right because like it also seems illogical to like just wait for this huge failure to come up in my life, but I guess I don't know, but sometimes I just wonder like why. Yes, I made the right choices. I was in a place to be able to make those choices. But you see other people or you hear about other people who aren't so lucky in it, and I just wonder like why why am I the way I am? Like why was I given this not just luck, but do you know what I mean? Like I feel like yeah, maybe that's why I'm unsure of my future because maybe a part of me feels that I don't deserve it or that like all of us are going to experience some amount of hardship. It just comes in small doses or it just comes in like one huge dose and we don't know. But,
You don't have to feel responsible for having
oh, I
that
think
privilege. You have to be thankful of having that privilege. And it's like, I know I'm privileged. I, I wasn't born
yeah.
rich with millions of dollars that my parents give to me for me to do things. So I have to make my way through life. But
Trump.
I had the greatest gifts of all. I had a
Yeah.
family that raised me in a way that I am in the position I am today, and that's the greatest gift I could receive. There is no money that can pay that, and
Mhm.
but I don't feel responsible because of that. I feel grateful. Like it's wonderful that I
Mhm.
had this opportunity. Unfortunately, not
Mhm.
everybody has that opportunity. But what I try to do is when I contact with that people, I try to give my best version of myself or my best caring to that
Mhm.
person so that I can maybe try to help that person find its path and the way and
Mhm.
to achieve the things they want and have a different
Mhm.
perspective of things. But I don't feel
Mhm.
responsible for having been that lucky, and I don't think that's healthy as well. Like, it's sad
Yeah.
that not everyone has the same opportunities as I have, but let's try
Mhm.
to make a good thing out of it and not a burden like,
Yeah.
oh, why was I so lucky? That I don't think that
Mhm.
makes sense. That it makes sense that okay, I was super lucky. I'm so grateful for that. But let's
Mhm.
make good things with that. Let's take that privilege and do good things in the world. Uh,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I feel like all that you have in this world is really to make the world a better place, and not just for yourself, but for the people you love, and then hopefully for the people you don't know, but share your community and have are a part of your life, whether you like it or not, because we're all like in this together. It sounds very cliche, but that's what I believe and I agree with you. And yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. So maybe like feeling responsible for where you are, like for the privilege is not very, as you said, is not very healthy, but yeah, but I guess I don't know, maybe because like what my friend so long ago, I mean this is like 6 or 7 years ago that she told me this, maybe because it's resonated with me, and I think it resonated because I have a fear of failure. I don't think that it resonated with me so much because I feel like I have a responsibility, or I feel like the luck I've had in life is a burden. I don't think it's so much that. I think it's maybe like deep down I have a fear of
The,
failure and of
when
like
I thought
letting
about the
people.
responsibility, it was
Yeah.
uh, from what you said, from the things you said, I felt that you almost have a look at it as a
Yeah.
response. Oh, I was so lucky, and it's not fair that the others aren't that lucky. I don't. I understood that from what you said, and the thing
Mm-hmm.
your friend said, it's like I feel like I'm in the same position as you are, totally.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you should let that friend. It was just playful.
Yeah.
And I think it's doing harm to, or can do harm to you in the future, and that's not a good thing. You shouldn't feel like that. Uh, yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's time to let that go. But I mean, like, just quickly going back to your point about the responsibility. Yeah, like I think, I mean, um, that's probably I do probably feel that way. I mean, sometimes you don't know things about yourself or how you're feeling unless you talk to someone else, and then like you notice that. But I guess like a part of the reason why maybe I feel responsible, I feel like I need to use my life in ways that really benefits others. Like I really feel like some sort of a duty, like sometimes it's because maybe it's none of my business, but I see a lot of people who are in similar positions, um, in a similar position as I am, and um, they seem not to really care so much. I mean, this is kind of off topic, I know, but like I see people and I meet people, I talk to people who don't really care about those kind of issues, or don't really have that perspective. And I think maybe it helps them in a way because they're not burdened by anything. But it just makes me wonder, like, what's the best way to contribute to society? And yeah,
Why do you
maybe
want?
I feel.
Why do you want so much to contribute to society? Let's go to the root of it. Like, there's a
Oh,
reason. No, there's a reason why you want to contribute to society. At least I'm telling by my own experience.
mm-hmm.
But why do you think it's like that?
Why do I? Oh wow, it's
What do you think
why do.
makes you like to contribute to society? It's something you feel. It's something. Uh,
Mhm.
so, like something you saw in your past and you decided you wanted to change that.
Uh-huh. I think. Hmm. Wow. I mean, this is it's a good question, but I think it really. I mean, we're talking about similar experience. Like I know I've talked about this already, but I really feel like it's because um so many of the opportunities that I've had um is because of the environments that I grew up in over which I didn't have control. And maybe it's difficult to imagine from a Portuguese perspective or from a European perspective, but like me being able to speak English, as like a native speaker, that is something that is really rare in Japanese society, unfortunately, and just this one tool, English, really just opens up so many doors for you in Japan. It's kind of incredible. Like it makes such a big difference, not only in the job market, but when you're entering college, when you're entering high school, you know. Um, and I don't want to say that my life has only been determined by this one skill that I have, or by like the first 12 years of my life growing up. Like that, I think that reduces me to that. So I wouldn't want to say that, but I do have to admit that it's this like head start that I had, or it's this different start that I had in the States, that is so really responsible for a lot of the opportunities that I know I will have later in life. Like it's a really like a snowball effect, and I think a part of me feels that what I can do is by contributing to society, I can help other people have those have similar opportunities, or to like widen those opportunities in a way that like um like even children who weren't born in maybe the most fortunate circumstances can get a slice of that. And I mean, for me, that's really important because I know I got here through hard work, but I know it wasn't the only thing, and that doesn't bring me any shame, or that doesn't make me feel bad about myself. It only makes me feel that I'm really lucky, but also that I want to um, share what I know and like create more opportunities for people, because then I know that these opportunities will enrich these, this future generation or these kids or these people. And that's going to benefit us all because I know how it's benefited me. And I think that's why I care so much about like contributing to society. I don't know, like
Have you ever took a minute
yeah,
to have a look at how beautiful it is? To
yeah.
have that feeling inside of you, because many
Mm-hmm.
people in your position would take the opportunities they have that others don't, and they would just
Mm-hmm.
be okay. I have this opportunity, and they don't care at all to other people not having those opportunities. But there's something inside of you that would be really happy if you could provide to others the opportunities you had to to achieve
Mm-hmm.
the happiness you have right now or that you're looking for. And that's the most beautiful thing we have as human beings, is to care for others. So you
Yeah.
should proud of that. Be proud of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, but also thank you for the pep talk. I know this is an interview, but like what you said about, not feeling it's like a responsibility or a burden, and also like to let go of some things that have been said to me about failure in the past. Like I think that was
But I
I
think
needed.
but I think you should look at it as a passion and not as a responsibility. Like at
Mm-hmm.
least I don't feel so well thinking that I have the duty to do this to society. I feel
Yeah.
better when I feel I have the passion to do those things to society. I
Mm-hmm.
love to. I'm happy making other people happy, and I
Mm-hmm.
love to
Mm-hmm.
be that way. And there's a feeling inside of me that arises of um, accomplishment, or not accomplishment, but fulfillment. That's the word I was looking for. When
Mm-hmm.
I engage with other people,
Yeah.
that's what I strive for. It's that feeling inside of
Right.
me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm, at least as myself, I'm much more propelled by this
Mm-hmm.
passion of
Mm-hmm.
helping other
Mm-hmm.
people and engaging with them than this duty
Mm-hmm.
to have to do this. At
Right.
least I deal
Yeah.
better with that in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah. I see. That's actually, you know what? It's actually gonna be, I think kind of hard for me to like
Shift.
hardwire myself
Yeah.
to have more of that perspective. But
I'm saying this, it works for me. It doesn't have to work for anyone, but that's the way I approach things and I like it.
no, I know. Yeah. I mean, I know you're not like forcing me to, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool to hear about that. I think because very often, yeah,
And one thing
you
I
don't really
believe,
talk.
sorry for interrupting, one thing I believe is that we don't need, we need to respect others, but we don't have the
Uh,
duty to do something apart from that. As long as we respect others, we don't have the duty to help them too much apart from that respect and at least community supporting. Like if someone is feeling bad on the street, I think you should help that person, of course. But apart from that, you don't need to do many extra favors apart from that basic respect and helpfulness. But
mhm,
I
mhm,
find it beautiful when people feel they should. Not they should, but they want to. Like I find
mhm, mhm,
it's not a responsibility, but it's something beautiful
mhm.
that some people don't need to, but they want to because they feel well doing good to other people. That's the way I see
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I think, yeah, you're right. I mean, when it's a passion, I think it's much more sustainable also because it's,
Doesn't feel as a
mm,
burden.
yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah. And you
exciting.
feel
It's
joy out of
exciting,
doing
not a burden.
it. You're not compelled to, exactly. Yeah. But I guess, I don't know, I've always been the kind of person who like have felt bound to do something. but it was usually this duty or this commitment that I had to certain uh projects or certain ways of thinking. They would always come from within. Like, I mean, maybe not completely, but it was never out of this someone telling me to feel that way. I felt like I would always like create this sense of duty within myself. So maybe that's um like like a positive side of my personality, but it can also be limiting. I think it could be also a bit unhealthy sometimes.
There, I'm telling this, but like in life, there's no black and white. There's a whole lot of gray scale in the middle, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
completely normal and acceptable that sometimes you do something because you feel like you have to. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. I don't think that's wrong in any way. But I feel that at least you should have a picture of it that's
Mm-hmm.
propelled not by duty, because you will feel that your life is a burden, that you just live to make these things happen, but have
Mm-hmm.
this vision of you are passionate by it and you do it because that's what you love to do. Even though in order to do the things you love, or to live life the way you believe, you
Mm-hmm.
have to do sometimes things because you have to, or because you should do them. But if
Mm-hmm.
the bigger picture is propelled by the passion you have for the thing you are striving for, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's much cooler way of approaching things. Even though sometimes uh, you can we can I can give you the analogy of something you do as a work. Like in something you work, you can look
Mm-hmm.
for a profession that you love, but
Mm-hmm.
there's always something in that profession that
Yeah.
you don't like so much and that you have
Mm-hmm.
to do. And so you
Mm-hmm.
can resonate this to what we were talking about. Like you
Yeah.
have this vision about your life and the concept, and so the
Mm-hmm.
meaning you give to your life. But okay, there will be some things that are part of this, and you need to do
Mm-hmm.
them. But to live your
I
whole life
agree.
as a burden, at least I don't like to picture things that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's fair. Yeah. And that's how you think. And it's always nice to just converse, right? Like share what we could be different, but yeah.
Okay.
Ah,
Um, I don't know. We talked a little bit about Japan. Maybe
yeah.
you would like to talk a little bit
Sure.
about other countries you visited. You are in Germany now. You lived on the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
You already talked a bit about uh, having these different experiences in different countries have taught you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but maybe you would like to tell about other countries you visited and what you liked the most about them, or what you found the most curious things about them.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to talk about Germany then, because I'm in Germany now and I feel like we've talked a lot about America. Maybe not a lot, but Germany. Hmm. I feel I mean, you know what I really like about Germany or Germans that I've come into contact with are that I feel that they are very sincere. You know that they're very you know they're known to be direct, they're known to be honest, but they mean what they say. And you know it's really evident when you make plans with them or when they invite you to go out for a cup of coffee or something. They actually mean it. You know, they actually mean I want to get to know you, I want to spend time with you, let's go out for coffee. And I was really surprised when I first got here because like even in Japan, like you know, I think Americans get a bad rep for saying, "Oh, let's hang out," and they never hang out. I think that's you hear a lot of that a lot about Americans. And in Japan, it's like somewhere in the middle. But in Germany, you know, when I made friends here, they would actually like give me like on WhatsApp or something, they would list what time on what day they could meet, and they would just be like, "You can choose from this list." And I think, yeah, it's pretty funny. At first, I was overwhelmed by the detail, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, I wasn't expecting this." But I like that sincerity. I like that punctuality. I like that they mean what they say and they do it. Um, sometimes things I we were talking with Philippe, who's our friend, earlier, and sometimes the German bureaucracy can be pretty annoying. You know, it can be too rigid. That's, I guess, maybe a negative, but overall, I really appreciate the way things are here, and the way people view other people's time. I think people here really value time, and they understand that if you make plans with someone, you are taking their time. And so that and that time is important to each and every one of us. It's precious. And so you should make the most of that time, and you should respect that time. So that's why I think people are, they care about punctuality and they care about planning. So that's one thing that I really like about Germany. Let's see, other countries that I've been to. Oh, I see, but I think when you travel, obviously traveling is a great way of learning about a different culture and kind of opening your mind to a different way of life. But usually you're only there for 2 weeks. I mean, not for 2 weeks. Like you're only there for a couple of days. And so I've been to Taiwan, I've been to China, I've been to a bunch of other countries in Europe. But I don't know if I can say something so like deep or
Yeah,
about other countries.
it's
Do you know what I
funny.
mean?
I do because I just talked about that with Aine from Brazil in last week's video.
Oh,
She
uh-huh.
told me that in the beginning, when she came to Europe, um, she started visiting other European countries with her family as well that would come from Brazil with her, and she would visit a lot of cities throughout Europe. And she
Mm-hmm.
said to me that yeah, they would stay there 3 days and they would
Mm-hmm.
just manage to visit everything in the city, the museums, to read every card, admiring the paintings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they did that, and she traveled that way. But
Mm-hmm.
she was telling that, for example, this year she came for the New Year's celebration to Portugal with some friends, and
Oh,
she
nice.
had a different view of it, of traveling, because she
Mhm.
could stay with them. She would
Yeah.
visit small villages and eat the things they eat there. Share
Mhm.
that meals with her friends and that time with her friends for like a
Mhm.
week or so, and
Mhm.
she felt a completely different perspective of traveling that she likes much more now. She talked about what was it? It was in Singapore. It was another place she would like to visit. I don't remember
Oh.
the name now.
Mhm.
But she said that yeah, Bangkok. Yeah, she said she
Wow.
would love to go to Bangkok. It sounds awesome, but
Mhm.
since really right now, she would prefer maybe to go to a small village in Sweden with like in the same type of traveling with a group of friends that she knows and to meet uh, a much raw experience inside the
Mhm.
country than
Mhm.
go visit Bangkok like before, like what you said, two
Mhm.
3 days, because
Mhm.
that way she can really experience better the country and understand better things. And she gave
Mhm.
an example when she traveled to Romania to a field work about her
Mhm.
PhD.
I
So I
see.
understood what you mean.
Yeah.
To live in a place it's different from just visit really quickly and almost don't get along with the people. Nihar from
Yeah.
India also has this perspective and he loves to engage with the locals in the place he travels to, even if he doesn't know them. He meets
Mhm.
them and sometimes has lunch or dinner with them. He has a wonderful story about the time he went to Bhutan, and
Oh,
he stayed at
uh-huh.
the locals' place. He had dinner with them. They let him
Uh-huh.
sleep there for exchange of working a little bit on the field with them.
Mhm.
And then the next morning he woke up really early because he had to leave and to move on to the Bhutan's capital. And when he noticed, like the woman, there was the couple and then the children, so the mother of the children
Mhm.
woke up as early as he did at like 4 or 5 a.m. and
Uh-huh.
cooked him lunch and sent him lunch so that it could have on
Hey,
his way to the Bhutan's
wow.
capital. And he was
Oh.
like, oh my, thank you very much. Like he couldn't say enough thank you to that because it came out of pure kindness. Like she didn't have
Mhm.
to do that, but she did. And to have that raw experience with locals, he likes that very much, and he likes to meet the local people.
Mm-hmm.
And another
Yeah.
thing you said about the German people really respecting time. I remember talking with Rodrigo from Argentina. It's funny how the channel episodes all connect. It's really funny. And he was telling me that like the Germans are like that. He stood 5 or 6 months studying in Germany as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he had that experience, and he told me a story on which he almost never partied in Germany. It was really difficult, and one of the times he did, it was
Mm-hmm.
a Friday night. Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
and it was not too long in the night. Still, it was still early, quite early, like midnight or so.
Uh-huh.
And the neighbors called the police because they were making noise, and so it was time. I think the neighbor had to work the next day or so, and that they are really respectful about those things, about work and their
Mm-hmm.
time. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
understood what you, and I remembered those things they said from what you said.
Yeah. It's interesting, like they like so I mean, here I'm living in a student dorm, so when you live with students you don't have that many rules, but at my dad's apartment there, well, I mean, here too they have it, but it's not so well observed. But at my dad's apartment they have a set of house rules, and there's this time called Ruhezeit. Ruhe, it means quiet time, and
Mm-hmm.
you would think that's only like at night, but it's also during the middle of the day. I
Okay.
think it's like the hours between like maybe 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And
Yeah.
then it's after 10 p.m. And apparently like the reason why it's there in the middle of the day is because it's when they, take a break, and maybe they take a midday nap or something. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's designated as Ruhezeit, and you're not supposed to take a shower after 10 p.m. because it's loud, or, do laundry. So,
Laura from
yeah.
Spain that I interviewed as well on the channel will find it funny
Uh-huh.
because they have in Spain they have like the how
Oh
do you
yeah,
call
they
it?
have
Yeah,
what's
they are known
the
for the siestas, which is basically a nap after lunch, and
mm-hmm.
so they have that how do you call it? They are known for that. I'm not remembering the word right now. Sorry. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it seems like other ones also do it. They are just not known for it.
Yeah, they're just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stereotypes. It was that was the word I was trying to remember. Sorry.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that
Mm-hmm.
those stereotypes can be bad because people tend to pay attention to those stereotypes and think, oh, they are lazy because they take a nap after lunch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
When in fact it can improve productivity.
yeah, if you are productive, and that doesn't so if you are productive the rest of the days, it doesn't even make sense to judge people by the nap.
Exactly.
And it makes super sense that they in Spain do that because she told me that the TV shows start really late, so they get to bed around 1 a.m. sometimes and get up at 6 a.m. So if you don't sleep during the night, you need to sleep during the day, right?
Yeah. You need
So
to balance it out somehow.
exactly. So it made sense to me that they need that time to sleep. Getting
Yeah.
to bed that late and rising up so early. So
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting.
if I
I
would
didn't know.
sleep only 5 hours a night, I know that there are people that can do this, even though it's not healthy at all. Like sleep, it's really important for your health. I've seen some TED talks about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep is really important for your health, but there are
Mm-hmm.
people who can do it. But if I only slept 5 hours a night, I would need a nap. Absolutely,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. I can endure one day like that or two, but after that, I'm dead.
That's healthy.
Yeah. So maybe just to end, I think we are getting quite long. Yeah, but it's been really enjoyable. I've loved this time.
Thank you.
Um, maybe
It's
just
been
finish with two. This can get quite long. But yeah, let's do it.
I'll keep my answer short.
No,
I'll
don't
try
worry,
to.
don't worry. There's no problem.
Okay.
If people can follow along well, if it's interesting. What
Okay.
fascinates you in other people?
Ooh, what fascinates me in other people? What fascinates me in other people? Oh, what? Oh, okay. That's a, and okay. I need to think. This bug is like literally bugging me. Hmm. what fascinates me now? I mean, okay, I'm just gonna start talking because I don't have like an
You
answer
know
in
one
mind.
thing? They say that
But
some people really struggle when they have an empty page in front of them and they have to write something. So they
ah,
say that it really helps to just write something, even though it might not be the end form of it. Just write,
uh-huh.
and in the
Okay.
end, it will get easier. It will get easier to do things. Sometimes we, as human beings, have trouble starting things. And one thing I've learned recently,
Uh-huh.
my sister told me a story about a guy
Hmm.
whose garage was completely not tidy at all. Everything was out of the spot, so then he had
Hmm.
to clean things. So it was a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do,
Hmm.
and just to think
Hmm.
about doing it was a nightmare.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
decided to do one thing. He would do 10 minutes
Yeah.
a day of it, even though if
Hmm.
after the 10 minutes he wanted to proceed, but he would do
Hmm.
10 minutes of the day of it and no more,
Hmm.
because to picture yourself doing something for 10 minutes seems doable. I
Hmm.
don't want to do this, but it's just 10 minutes. I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he would do 10 minutes a day, cleaning up the garage and tidy everything up.
Hmm.
And eventually he did do everything. It just took some days or weeks to do
Hmm.
so. And one thing I learned from that story is like when I'm not really into doing something, I don't want to do this. I have to, but I don't want to.
Hmm.
Sometimes I just try to think, do 10 minutes of it. After
Hmm.
that, if you want to proceed, you proceed. If you don't want to stop. And the answer
Hmm.
is almost always to proceed, at least for a while, even if it's not for 2 or 3 hours, at least for
Hmm.
1 hour, 30 minutes, 1 hour and a half, it depends a lot. But I
Hmm.
can proceed during that time. And I did that work there. It's better than not
Hmm.
doing anything because I'm thinking about the whole mountain. And
Hmm.
if I decide I just have to climb a little and see where I go,
Hmm.
it's easier sometimes to start.
Yeah,
And I also saw,
I
while
agree.
I just realized this, and soon after that, I would find a really inspiring quote regarding that. That was, "Don't waste time waiting for inspiration. Begin, and inspiration will find you." And I found it wonderful.
Yeah, that's like it. That's it in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
it really
uh
resonated with what I've just
huh.
realized some days before that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about that. Just doing, you have to start small when you really don't feel like doing it, something, whatever, a huge task. But going back to your question, your answer gave me some time to think. But I'll just start talking. Well, I mean, I like people. I'm one of those people who really enjoy communicating with others, talking to others hours on end. What fascinates me is, I mean, usually I can strike up a conversation with anyone, and I usually enjoy 99% of the conversations I've had in my life, or maybe not 99, but most of them. But it really fascinates me to hear about people who kind of decided to abandon the path that seemed most normal or that was expected of them. And I think, there's usually some sort of path, right, that most people around you are following or was expected of yourself in one way or another. But there are always people who choose to go a different route. And sometimes, and that's what fascinates me. So I like talking to people who have done that, and I like talking about why they've done that. Sometimes it's not always positive. Sometimes they were forced to, or they had no other choice, or but other times it can be from this a conviction that they have, or this dream that they have, or sometimes they just felt like it. And I think I really that's what fascinates me when people do things. Uh, that weren't expected. So when people do unexpected things in their lives that really change their lives, and I think I like it also when they don't really realize it. And so when I ask them, they're like, "Oh, I never really thought about it that way, but to me, it just felt natural." Because I feel like I'm I think if you talk to other people about me, they wouldn't say that I'm so orthodox. I think they would say that I have taken on challenges, but I view myself not so much as a risk taker, and I'm pretty, hesitant about taking risks and making the big leap or and yeah, but and that brings me to my next point about I'm fascinated by people who are very different from me, um, especially when they're skilled in skills that I don't have, you know, and I just really admire people who are skilled. Like for example, I have close to no artistic talent, but I have friends who are, and that's what fascinates me because they're so different. But I have to be honest and say, well, when people are don't share the values that I have about people, about respecting others, or certain topics like race or gender, then it can be very hard for me to communicate with them and to be with them. So when I say differences, maybe I'm looking at people who are perhaps not completely different from me, just on a level of skill or interest, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen an interesting TED talk recently.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was from actually two. One was a black guy that's from in America that started attending KKK meetings.
Wait,
Yeah, I
is it the
can
same guy whose story got made into a movie?
at least a news in television, but not. I don't know if there's a movie about it. But yeah,
Okay.
there's a guy that what he had this experience on a parade. So when he was
Mm-hmm.
little, he lived in a place in America that almost didn't exist black people, so almost everyone was white. And
Mm-hmm.
he was part of the Scouts, I believe, and he was
Mm-hmm.
doing something like a parade.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on the front of the parade actually in that day, I believe, if I remember well. And
Mm-hmm.
people started throwing things to him. He was a little
Mm-hmm.
child, but it was the first. But he didn't understood why. So
Yeah.
because children are not racist. They don't
Mm-hmm.
behave differently because people have a different color of their skin. It's just normal to them if they were used to it. If we were raised and we never saw someone with a different color of skin, it's human to be surprised. It's just human to be
Mm-hmm.
surprised because you see something different and to be interested about it really. I can
Mm-hmm.
imagine it was what happened in the past when people started discovering different communities in different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But when people are born and raised in that fashion, meeting these people, it's normal for us because it's always been there. I actually, I'm sorry, I have this defect of telling too many stories inside stories because I get too interested. But
No, 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 it's all right.
but I remember a story in which someone from Asia, I don't know if it was Japanese or Chinese, had gone to an American university. I've already told this story in another episode, but I can tell it again. And he went to the American university. He went for the interview, I believe, and they asked him what did he found most different or curious about America that he didn't found in Asia or in Japan or China. I don't remember. And he said
Mhm.
that they had really strange eyes. And
Oh,
I don't know if the story is super funny for you, but at least for me is because for us in the western side of the world, the Asian people, the Chinese people, Japanese,
yeah,
everyone in Asia has a different shape in their eyes. So it's something
yeah.
different that we find curious. Like it's interesting
Mm-hmm.
that you have a different shape in the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's really funny to think about it the other way. Like we have the different
Yeah,
shape of the eyes. It is super
yeah.
funny to think that way. Yeah.
And
Uh,
different colors too.
yeah, it's super funny too because we live in a nutshell basically. The world is enormous and we live in a really small space of the world. And we tend to generalize and to think that everything else is like we saw and what we lived and what we've been through. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like the other day, I didn't know when you told me that when we talked in the pre-call before this actual
Yeah,
video,
yeah.
when you told me that there was no hour shift
Ah,
difference
yeah,
in Japan, It was more of a European thing, and in America as well didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I can say I was fully surprised because it makes sense that not everyone follows that. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that. It was something new to me, and I just almost assumed that everyone in the world did that. And maybe it's just we in Europe that do that, so we are the outsiders in that sense. So when you
Yeah.
believe that things are normal like you do them, but the times you realize that you are the normal, like that you are doing things, the one doing things differently, it's really fun. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it really
Yeah.
gives you some perspective of what you believe and what you think might not be accurate. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
open-minded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally.
What I
Yeah.
was telling you about this guy, he was in the parade, and when he got home, uh, he talked to his parents about it. He didn't know what happened, why people were throwing him things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if they told him right away because he was only a child, so it's hard to talk about these things to children, of course. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to remember that America now might has some problems with racism, and we can see in the television what's happening right now. But
Mm-hmm.
30, 40 years ago was much
Yeah.
worse.
No, it was worse. It
Yeah,
was much worse,
I
especially.
can't imagine to deny someone to get into a bus or a cafe because of their color of the skin. I can't imagine that. It's too apart from my world and the way I do things. But
Mm-hmm.
it happened at the time. But and then his parents need to tell them what happened and what was racism and why it happened. But
Mm-hmm.
throughout his life, he was always fascinated of why do people do these things. He was interested
Mm-hmm.
about it. He
Mm-hmm.
wanted to understand the other side, the other perspective. What made people treat him that way just because of the color of his skin?
Mm-hmm.
And so one day, he told his assistant to contact one of the major guys in the KKK, in the Ku Klux Klan,
Wow.
and
Uh-huh.
arrange a meeting with him without knowing he was black,
Mm-hmm.
because he
Mm-hmm.
thought that he wouldn't accept talk with a black person.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
he stood there, so they arranged the meeting, and when he met him at the hotel, he had this bodyguard with the gun, so things were quite dangerous. Things were quite
Uh-huh.
dangerous. But he accepted sitting down with him, discussing ideas and
Mm-hmm.
ideology and what they believed,
Mm-hmm.
respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
And then a small thing, funny happened, but I don't think it's worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
If you see the TED talk, you get to know that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
Uh,
watch it.
but um, but in the end, he started attending these meetings and tried to
Mm-hmm.
understand why they did that, and he managed to get a friendship relationship with this guy from the head, almost the headmaster of the Ku Klux Klan, and it's awesome.
I don't know how I feel
It's
about that
awesome,
though.
and this guy from the Ku Klux Klan still thought as him as an inferior person because he was black, but he
Mm-hmm.
respected him for the openness of being friends with him and meeting him and talk with him respectfully, and he respected that in him. So, and in the end, even this is I will not say that because it would be a spoiler. But if you
Mm-hmm.
want to see the TED talk, it's better to watch it yourself. But it's really fun. And the other thing was this feminist person. She was super feminist, and she is. She believes
Mm-hmm.
that women's rights should be respected, and there many times are not. So she stood for this cause, and she
Mm-hmm.
couldn't almost listen to the men's rights movement that also
Mm-hmm.
exists, and she felt like they were diminishing the importance of the women's rights, talking about the men's rights or problems.
Mm-hmm.
So they were almost like enemies in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you said, people that have difference. But one interesting thing is that they may not have so different vision of yourself. Of course, the guys in the Ku Klux Klan had, but
Mm-hmm.
in the men's rights movement, she got to interview them to do journalistic work about it. I think it was an article, but on TV or something like that. So with
Mm-hmm.
filming and things like that. And so she got there, she interviewed them. She was
Mm-hmm.
always looking for something to point out to. Oh, these guys think like this. When she, of course, she didn't tell them that because she had to be respectful because she was interviewing them and she was a journal. Sorry. So, but she was working, and
No worries. Yeah.
yeah, and in the end, basically she watched it again at home,
Mm-hmm.
and she then started to realize that maybe these guys weren't so mean after all. Maybe they were not diminishing women's problems. They was just saying that men's problems also exist, and they also need to pay attention to them. I think one of the things they said was like so violence at home, it's domestic violence is a huge problem, and
Mm-hmm.
women are the most affected, of course, and there are
Mm-hmm.
dozens of organizations in the U.S. to protect or to try to help those persons uh, who have those situations, unfortunately. But men also suffer from domestic violence, and that's also a problem. And when you go look for it, there's only one organization in the whole country of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
that tries to have a work to protect these people and to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was trying to say with all of this is that, of course, we may not agree with someone, but we
Mm-hmm.
should give everyone the benefit of the doubt, and instead of be hurrying to judge people, to try at least listen a bit to what they have to say, and then if we don't agree, okay, we may say our opinion, share visions or different visions, and we may not get to an agreement, okay, but at least
Yeah.
give the benefit of the doubt to the person. And I feel
Yeah.
that today people
Mm-hmm.
might get might be not willing to do this, like with all these movements we are seeing around the world, with racism as an example. Uh,
Yeah.
we it's good that we stand against racism,
Mm-hmm.
but for example, one thing that was one really not wasn't well accepted was, for example, the hashtag All Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
But
sure. Sorry. I
oh
will
no, no,
finish.
go
I will
finish
finish
your
soon.
point and then I'll talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there were people that used this hashtag to diminish the other. I can believe that, and makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe there were also people that were already one step ahead and tried to view the world and to not create these boxes for races, and to think as other people as human beings and not as black people or white people. And in that's why they were saying all lives matter. And I'm not saying they were. I will say ask them and see if that was the case, because if that was the case, they were on our side. They view people as people, not as people of some color or white or black. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand? And we may are creating opponents in
Yeah.
allies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I see what I understand what you're saying, and I see and I um see the value in really like engaging in open and like trusted dialogue with the other. But I think that there are some opinions and rhetoric and ways of thinking that don't really deserve the benefit of the doubt. I'm just going to say that because I feel like with the history of the Ku Klux Klan and the history of how they have treated Black Americans, I mean, that's unacceptable. I mean,
Mhm.
and it's so atrocious and so inhumane. And like the example that you gave, like maybe this guy was able to find some sort of understanding, but it doesn't change the fact that the guy that he forged an understanding with is the figurehead of the Ku Klux Klan, who have been, you know,
Mhm.
inflicting violence and killing Black Americans for decades. And so and you know, so often when we talk about giving the benefit of the doubt, it's always the people who are oppressed who need to give the benefit of the doubt to the people who are oppressing them. So
Mhm.
both cases, right? Like it was a Black guy trying to understand the Ku
100%.
Klux Klan, a feminist trying to understand the
Mhm.
men's right movement. It is very not very often the other way around. And I see your point. I hear your point, but I also feel that like up to a certain point, you know, you just you cannot give them the benefit of the doubt,
Mhm.
or you need to like yeah.
No,
And
I'm
And
sorry.
it's unfair that the people who are being oppressed and the people who are being hurt have to give the benefit of the doubt. They are being oppressed, and they also have to be more morally superior in
Yeah.
that giving of the benefit of the doubt. So I mean, it's a difficult question, I think, but and I also feel with the all lives matter, like there could have been some people using it in that way, but the majority is just, they say all lives matter, um, because all lives matter, and that's why Black lives matter.
Mm-hmm.
But and by saying Black lives matter, people aren't saying that all lives don't matter, but they're saying that there are lives that aren't being valued, and those are Black lives. So we can say all lives matter when we get to that point when it's true. But for now, I feel like the people who are using it aren't using it in a way to be allies. Because they know that unless you've been living under a rock, you know that using that hashtag means that you are denouncing the Black Lives Matter movement. So, but
Cool.
I
No,
mean,
I totally understand and agree with what you say.
mm-hmm,
Like, uh, I don't picture myself doing the thing that like guy did. Like,
mm-hmm,
just to watch those meetings would be atrocious to me. Like,
mm-hmm,
I would be exploding inside seeing those
mm-hmm,
meetings.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm not saying that people should do what he did. I say we should. I'm fascinated by what he did. Really, I
Yeah,
found it
no, but
amazing. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
yeah.
but what I was trying to say is not that you should get along with the Ku Klux Klan. I was just trying to
Mm-hmm,
say, at least for the cases of people that might be on your side, or at
mm-hmm,
least partially, even if not totally,
mm-hmm.
try to understand them first before judging. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah, I know
cannot.
how you just think like the Ku Klux Klan, you can't do that with them, but like with other more moderate
Yeah.
racists, maybe, yeah.
Even with the Ku Klux Klan, you can say why why do you think the black people are inferior to the white people, and they can explain to you, and you can argument counter why, like saying explaining why you believe we are all equal, and then if he disagrees,
Mm-hmm.
okay, he disagrees. I don't believe you need to give the benefit indefinitely the benefit of the doubt to that person, almost as that black guy did. But I was just saying you should understand if he really stands against racist equality, or if he is just not totally clarified about it, or is not expressing himself well, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I understand, but I still feel that with the Ku Klux Klan, their history. Like
Yeah,
they've
it's,
been blacks, they've been so for the Ku Klux Klan, I don't think I can agree with you
yeah,
there, but yeah, what your message is about, like trying to giving letting the other person explain themselves, and then listening to that and trying to persuade them, perhaps,
yeah.
or
Then if you
I
can't, it's okay. But there
yeah.
was a respectful interaction in there, at least.
And yeah, that they can do that. I mean, I wouldn't be able to. So that
But
I,
like I said, this example of this black guy is astonishing. Like it's not
yeah.
that we have to be like one of the people I most praise, like that I most admire. It's Mother
Mm-hmm.
Teresa because she gave up her life to support other people in
Mm-hmm.
really difficult conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and I find it beautiful, wonderful. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like I would be able to do so. But I
Mm-hmm.
still admire that person.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I know. I admire her too. I used to have like a picture book of her. So yeah, I
Yeah.
see. I know what you're
And I
saying.
admire, and it's funny because I'm not religious, so I admire her not in a
Mm-hmm.
religious way. Like I truly admire her human sense of helping
Mm-hmm.
others and loving others around her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see.
Okay, uh, maybe I think we should be more or less done with the video. I will just ask you to leave
Okay.
a final message to people watching, maybe.
Oh, okay. So if you've made it this far,
Yeah, it's been
congrats.
really, really long. I'm sorry for that.
No worries. I don't know. Maybe you'll cut some parts out. I don't know. Um, but I really enjoyed making this, well, being here and having this conversation. So thank you for inviting me, first of all. I think you probably got to know me better, but I don't know if I was able to speak so much about Japan, but I hope I was able to give some sort of an introduction to my people. Japan is really a beautiful country, and it's quite a unique country too, because a lot of people say this, but we have a mix of the new and the old. So you have like temples in the middle of skyscrapers. It's actually a thing. And we have quirky pop culture, but we also have, tea ceremonies and samurai and all that jazz. So I don't know, if you're interested in Japan, like please check us out. Like actually come
There's a
to
lot to
our
discover.
island. Yeah, there's a lot to it's I know it's far, but if you're ever in Asia, pop over to Japan maybe. And I think you'll have a great time. So yeah. In the meantime, if I don't watch that many shows, but if you're a fan of Queer Eye, which is a show on Netflix, they have a couple of episodes that they did in Japan, and I think it is a good. They represent Japan in a fair way, like modern Japan in a fair way, and it's entertaining. So yeah, maybe check that out if you're interested. But thanks for having me. I think
No,
that's
I
it.
am the one who has to thank you very much for being here and to accept doing the video here.
Of course, thank you.
It's wonderful that all the people have been asking to do these videos are end up thanking me, but I am the one who has to thank you guys, your availability, and even the love you put participating. Like you are really expressing with your life experiences, your emotions towards your country and other experiences you've had. So I find it wonderful, and I am the one who has to thank you guys. And also
I mean,
for
yeah.
sorry, what you want to say?
No, I was gonna say it's easy to talk to you because like you really listen, and like once I say something, you actually respond and you give your own response, and I think that's really important because it feels like you feel valued. So yeah, I just wanted to say
Thank you very
that.
much. And for the guys there that are curious about Japan, of course you can visit them, but you can also put in the comments your questions. We would love to answer. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think that's about it. Feel free to leave your questions there, or any curiosity you might want to know. I will get in touch with Aine to for her to get to know and to maybe.
Yep.
I'm sure she would like to help you out. And
Yep.
yeah, I think we'll see each other next week. We'll come back with a new country as always. And yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed. Sorry for the length of this video got really long, but I think it was nice. I think it was really interesting. That's why I was not concerned about it. Like we were saying, it's good to have some freedom on it and to
Hmm.
adjust to things. So I felt today that we should go a little bit longer. But yeah, thank
Yeah.
you very much for being there. I hope you guys are still there next week and find out which country we will be talking to. Bye.
Bye.